Hi guys, welcome to the live stream. What we're doing today is we're going to build an app together that will keep track of leads and sales. There's all kinds of businesses out there. May I say, most businesses out there might have somewhere in the organization they need to keep track of leads, sales, maybe commissions, all that type of good stuff. So it's a common type of use case that would be needed. So I'm excited to jump in on this. This project idea came up, and so we're going to build this. Now, that's not to say that I've forgotten about the onboarding application. That is more of a long-term project, and it's a very large application. So we will be continuing with that onboarding application. This is more of a small app, and I didn't want to be stuck on one app and have a little bit of fatigue of doing the same thing for weeks and weeks. I wanted to do something fresh and new, and so that's what we'll be doing today. I'll keep an eye on the comments. I see Elvis in the chat. I see Elvis right above me here. Welcome, Elvis, to the live stream. We've got Rick, Ellie, Patty. Welcome, guys. So glad to have you on here as we build this application live. So let's talk about some features here. So I do publish my notes on powerplatformlinks.com. If you go there, you'll be able to find this. I haven't published it yet, but after we're done with the live stream, I will. So you'll be able to get to all this. This video is a link to the video you're currently watching. Just in case somebody finds this site and then they come across this, they'll have a link to go to, you know. So I'm going to open up and ask for your guys' input of, especially Kurt and Elvis, you know probably more about this project more intimately than maybe the viewers here. So let's talk about I'm going to think of a few core features I definitely want in here.
Well,
but
before you go into that, we were talking about building this onboarding app early, and we've been working on that. It just seems in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems in my mind that this could be integrated into that, right? Because
that's true.
We're not necessarily onboarding always employees. Maybe we're onboarding customers for services and things like that, so maybe your onboarding app could be for both things, maybe customers and employees. And so I don't know, I was just wondering which thing.
I like that idea. Absolutely. I'm just thinking of, there's so many. I mean, after the months and the years go by here on this channel, we could probably create a whole ERP system, enterprise resource planning, I think is what ERP stands for. Create a whole system here and sell it for $5 or 25,000. One of those two amounts,
Tony A has already got a good comment in there, or onboarding partner companies,
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Could be good stuff.
And see Wes on there watching from the road. Okay, very good. What I'm going to do here is make sure I've got a thing set up here. So what I was thinking, any application needs to keep track of the users, the people that are actually using the application. And I like to keep track of things about the user. Sometimes I reach out to the user, I think it's called Users 365 or Office 365 Users Connector, and I'll grab some additional information that we don't have with the user function within PowerApps. The user function only gives us full name, email, and photo. It could have provided so much more, in my opinion, but I always like to reach out there and grab it, make sure the users are in there. And so if somebody comes in, a potential customer, okay, and we need to keep track of at least their name, their email, and their phone. Chances are you might be using a larger CRM system. I know me personally, I don't use a PowerApps for a CRM. I could, but to get that many features of the CRM that I'm currently using would take quite a bit of time. There's quite a bit of features.
Like another live stream.
Yeah, no kidding. I think if we built all the apps we had ideas for, we probably have to do a 24/7 live stream. And maybe us three would just go around robin. Okay, Kurt,
Yeah.
you got you live stream for 5 hours. I'll take the next 5.
But this leads section is probably maybe the most important section right here. Because you got to collect, you can get to a point where you can collect enough information, but you can't collect too much information, right? And maybe that's how come these big companies have data seas and data lakes instead of databases on people, right? So, mostly I'm thinking you need to know what country they're in, so that way you know what time zone they're in.
Okay.
Because one of the things I've been noticing is that with an automated process, that automated process goes and pings these people and wakes them up at 2:00 in the morning. You're not going to do very well at nurturing that lead. So we need to be able to work something into that,
Yeah. So, so I was talking to somebody earlier this week, somebody in the Philippines, and their time zone. So it's 10 a.m. Well, it's 10 p.m. there. So if you can imagine, in the middle of noon or 3:00 in the afternoon is a perfect time to send out automated texts like, hey, watch my live stream or whatever.
Yeah.
They may not like me. They may unsubscribe, like, don't talk to me again.
I'm sure that
valid
happens.
point.
And then plus, and not only that, but with employees and working with virtuals or hybrid type location situations. I mean, look at us right now. Look at this live stream. We're from all over the world right now. Elvis is now. What time is it there, Elvis?
It's 3:00 here.
3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning?
3 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's early here, 9:00. So, at 10:00 company time, but yeah, and we get people from the other side of the globe like Nick and so.
Very good. Okay, so guys, give me some more ideas. So we've got some good data points here. On the sales, I want to know the date of the sale, perhaps the final amount or the amount sold for. Terms of payment.
Yep, terms of payment.
And then we might want to keep track of if they're fully paid or what. Okay, so we're going to say fully paid, or we could do a percentage.
Yeah.
What I'm worried about in that case is who would go in and update that. So let's say we are selling vacuums. Okay, we put them on a payment plan for 12 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes vacuums can be a little on the expensive side, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Break them up over 12 months. So is everybody, let's say if we do I'm going to say percentage.
Well,
okay, somebody will need to go in there every month and update that.
I mean, obviously all this information is going to have to be updated. So I was thinking as Snuffy Smith bought into whatever it is that he bought, then there would be a payment table and a payment form that would allow an employee to enter Snuffy Smith's payment information, and then that would be garnered from that table into this, right? So that you'd be able to grab a percentage. So you'd have a one to many already sitting there, right?
That's right. Pretty soon we'll be breaking out the ERD diagram, right? So for you viewers out there, and people watching this in the future, okay, I'd sort of like to know how you guys begin projects. So you see what we're doing here. We didn't jump into PowerApps, did we?
Nope.
I think if you do that, you're setting yourself up for failure. If the project's important, even if it's for your portfolio, and that's the only reason you're building it. Well, a part of your portfolio could be your documentation. Do you plan before you do something? If you're going to build a house, do you get an architect involved and get a blueprint and have the plans, or do you just say, I'm going to build a building out in the backyard here. Let's see, we got some wood, we got some nails, and you can imagine the disaster for that, right? Yeah, and I do see Nick said, or run a flow to update the payment. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Elisa's gathering requirements. Very good. That's the answer I'm looking for. So we're doing some planning. We're gathering requirements. We're identifying what I would call entities. So let's say you get an email from a potential client and they said, yeah, I need an app that does this and this and this, and it needs to track this business flow. And you take that 1 to 3, or the more information they give you, the better. And you got and you identify all the nouns, okay, person, place, thing that your application needs to manage. Okay. So if somebody says, hey, I need an app for a garage, a customer will come in and walk over to the computer with a staff member behind it, and they take the order, and then their car gets serviced in the garage. Now, you notice the word computer there was a noun. Does our application need to manage their computers inside the garage? No. So that's only the determining factor. If something will be an entity or a database table or a screen or a grouping of screens to manage each of these things. So that's something I like to mention there. So on the commissions, we could say date of payment, those payments going out. And I'm trying to think if I want to handle multiples or not. I'm almost tempted just to keep it on the side of simplicity, but what other data points do you think we should keep track of, Elvis and Kurt?
Well, so you're going to have different commissions and different levels of commissions for different types of things that are sold, or for different activities. For instance, you might have one commission that might be like a 1% for leads, and then you might have a closing commission for 10% for closings. So in other words, if I can go find a customer and bring them to the brick and mortar store here, well, then that's 1%. And then if we close the deal, maybe it's 10%. And there might be other commissions that we want to do too. So we might have to have a commissions and a rate table in there, commission type and a commission rate table.
Rate.
Because, Darren, you could get one commission for getting a lead and another commission for closing a sale. So there's two commissions right there.
That's true.
Yeah.
Do we need to categorize the commissions do we need to do them in categories? The commissions.
Okay, categories. Okay. And just a few seconds ago, I was thinking, we might have different percentages. This might go into categories, as you said here, Elvis. But I went up here and I added 2 items up in sales. What was the item purchase and the description? Because I would imagine most companies are selling multiple things or different types of things. It could be a product, it could be a service.
Yeah.
All right. So we got data payment, percentage rate. And
I guess I just want to say something about categories. Now, when I think of categories, I think of many types of things going into one category, right? So you got a category of like movies, like you got horror movies and sci-fi movies. Those are categories, right? But then you've got the name of each thing too. So I don't know. I guess you could have the name of the commission and then the category could be separate, but I don't know. Or would they be does the name actually be the category in this case? That's why I'm just thinking it through, trying to.
And also it might, so Elvis, tell us more what you're thinking, or brainstorm with us a little bit more on the category. As Kurt was just talking, I'm thinking, well, we might want category up in the sale, and then the category would be derived from the category of this sale. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because we may have different levels of commissions. We may have commissions of 10%, 50%, like you said. So it would be better to categorize them. Let's have a column for, okay, then, so they call a particular column, there will be different values, like 10%, 50%, so it will be easy to track.
Very good. Yeah, I'll add that up to the sales. And this would probably be more than likely a drop-down list, but we'd have an app admin screen that allows us to add, edit, delete type of stuff. Okay, this is good stuff. Now, you guys feel this is enough to... mean, it almost feels like I mean, at the very least, I want to have everything that the user function gives us, at least at
So
the get-go here. Go ahead.
so on the I think you might want to be able to track some information for a performance basis too. Now this is for commission, but you
Okay.
could have some performance stuff in there too. For instance, you could have Elvis. We could be tracking Elvis. Could be going out there doing leads. He could be out there closing deals, and we can actually maybe store that information somewhere so that way we can say, well, how much has Elvis done in the last 3 months? Well, he's been our lead. He's been our lead commission getter. I mean, he's the lead sales closer, or because you could be able to tell that based on that kind of history. Or Kurt needs to step it up a little bit here, man. He hasn't been closing anything, man. What's he doing over there with his life? We can look at some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Also, I was thinking,
go ahead, Darren.
I was thinking a percentage of commission. So let's say if I'm selling vacuums and I'm sending 2 people out going door to door, and maybe that was just our business model. I don't know that makes sense to have 2 people trying to sell a vacuum at the same time to the same customer. But I know when I purchased a car at a dealership, I went in there and saw one salesperson. I didn't like what I saw. I came back like a month later and I knew more of what I needed. And I went in there, I'm like, hey, I'm interested in this. And he looked me up in the computer. He goes, oh, somebody else helped you. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I was looking at like really used cars and stuff. And I was going to come in and buy more of not a brand new one, but something that was a little used. And I said, the guy really didn't help me out. I talked to him for 5 minutes and that was it. You spent an hour here with me, And he goes, it's okay. I have to split the commission with him. So I think that's really common. If several people touch something, or if 2 people are handling the sales, we'll say percentage of total commission.
Right. And to validate that point, Darren, even though the first one you didn't care about that, there was something that first one said or did that helped you come back. There's some reason why you came back. Because if it was really bad, you would say, I'm not even going to go in that door anymore. Ellie just brought up something pretty cool in the thing too. I thought maybe, do you need a status choice field on where you are with the lead?
It's an excellent idea. Yes.
That's a big deal right there.
That is a big deal. Thank you, Ellie.
Yeah.
However, never create, this is just part of my, could I call it wisdom? My professional wisdom. Don't use choice fields within SharePoint. And we're going to use SharePoint here. Okay. Just sort of change it up. But
Ellie gets points off for saying that. She gets points off. She knows better than that. Ellie knows better.
But she could have been like a drop-down list, which is probably what's going on. Okay. So we'll say status. Current status. Okay. And Ellie says LOL. Points off, Ellie.
She knows.
Okay, so I'm feeling like we've got a good solid idea of where we want to go. Okay.
Yeah. I like it.
And I do see a comment here. We have make PowerApps can do upstored Play Store. There is a Play Store for PowerApps. And yes, you can upload it and sell your apps there. So that's a good point that you brought up. I really don't talk about it very much here on the channel. So I could very well do that. Sell this once it's complete and tested and everything. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this up here so you guys have a good view of that. And then what I'm going to do, I've got a fresh new PowerApps application. Now this doesn't look like a blank canvas, does it? That's because I'm using my Jumpstart kit. So I don't have to create a menu and all these other things I like to have in all of my applications. I don't like have to recreate the wheel, so to speak. So I'm going to try to zoom in on this a little more to allow you guys to see this better. So by the way, guys, somebody from the last live stream said that the quality of when I share my screen was sort of low. And so I found a setting and I'm streaming at 8010. Hold on a second. It's called, 1080p at 30 frames per second. That's exactly what it was. So anyway, hopefully it looks a lot better to you guys. If I open up this menu, you guys can read everything. You can see the code better. So that's what happens when you guys provide feedback. Let me know if there's an audio problem or a video problem. We're always looking for ways to improve our video quality. So if you guys have any suggestions like that, please let us know. Okay, so what we will do now, so I do have SharePoint set up. So I created a SharePoint site called Leads and Sales. And let's create a new list, shall I say database table. And I'm going to say blank list. And I'm going to call this app users or just users. See, the problem with creating a table name like users, is there any conflict with the language that we're using? The language that we're using is PowerFX. Is there any type of keyword or function called users? Anybody know that? Yeah, there's a users function, right? So I don't want to conflict with that. So I'll say app user. I'm not going to show it in the navigation. I'm going to click create. Right. I'm going to keep this fairly simple and straightforward. So I just want to keep track of users' full name, their email address, and also their photo. I'm going to go in here. So we have a title I'll use for the full name. I'll create a text field. Next. And then what we'll do here is we will type email. Yeah, single line of text. And let's see if there's anything interesting down here. 255 is great for an email. And I'm just going to click save there. Very good. And then for a photo, I do handle photos quite differently inside of my apps if I'm using SharePoint. And that is to use multiple lines of text and store it as a base 64 text representation of their photo. And I've done that because, or at least I do that in all my applications that use SharePoint, because what you'll find is there's some issues. So one of the first issues that I found while using SharePoint as a data source is that if the user hasn't been out to that SharePoint site or list, sometimes the photos don't come across, so that's very frustrating. So I'm going to go in here and say multiple lines of text. I'll click next. Okay, and I'm going to say image, multiple lines of text. Very good. And then always want to make sure when you create a column for photos, you don't want to create enhanced rich text. So it's turned off by default here. If you're creating this column from the list settings, it will by default turn that on. So a little bit of information that might help you in the future. Okay, so I'll hit save. And those are the three things. Okay, very good. And in order to get a good link to a SharePoint site, what I do is I just click on this little square up here in the upper left corner where it says LS. Then I go up to the very top and grab that URL. Then I'll go back over to PowerApps. We'll click on the data sources. So you see that it says data here. And I'll click on add data. And I'll go look for SharePoint. Okay. So I'm going, if I scroll down a little bit, it might be here. There we go. There's SharePoint. And I'm going to say connect directly. All my SharePoint sites are in the cloud. And then you see how it pulls that up. It knows that I was out on that site. So I could paste this URL here and click connect, or you could just click on the one that you know is there. And you see that we have app user. I'll click on connect. Very good. And then let's see here. So we have that. And then, okay, so let's deal with the user. So whenever somebody uses this application, I check to see if they're in there. And if they're not, then I'll add them. Okay. So what I want to do is find some code that I've used in another application that does just this. And I'll sort of walk you guys through it. So what I'm going to do is bring up a new browser window over here. And I will go find that. I do have, so while I'm doing this, I have something cool to show you guys. PowerApps has been the key ingredient for the hundreds of people that we've helped dominate in their organization. With this one skill, you're able to simplify processes for countless tasks like tracking leads, doing inspections, logging attendance, booking desks in a shared office, generating reports, tracking employee performance, and the list goes on. If you have a project that you need to get done, or you're an IT professional or a developer, or if you plan to eventually do some freelancing work with Microsoft PowerApps, I am literally the only person you need to accomplish your goals. Spreadsheets and all the old ways of doing things are becoming redundant, and the people who are able to build PowerApps are going to accelerate their professional career so much faster than everyone else who's okay being average. I have over 20 years experience as a software developer and have been working in PowerApps for over 3 years. We have lots of course material for you, but if you're eager to accelerate your expertise with PowerApps at a much faster pace and want to work directly with me, this is what me and my team are going to do for you. Number one, we're going to figure out exactly what projects and skills you're working on and the overall end goal. Number two, we're going to get clear on exactly what data sources are needed for your projects. If it's a particular project with a deadline, we're going to work with you to make sure that you meet that deadline. And number four, we're going to work with you to make sure that you master the platform. So not only can you finish any projects that you're currently working on, but the projects that come up in the future. And you might want to take those skills and become a freelancer in the future. If that sounds like something that you're interested in and you want to expedite the process of being able to build apps that can literally be used for years, and you want to be an important asset to your organization and any future companies you work for, click the button below and we can have a 15-minute chat about what you're needing and how we can help. All right. So I found the app that I needed to bring up, and then I was all ready. Have you guys ever noticed that sometimes PowerApps, the screen here in the middle will just go completely blank white?
Yeah.
Isn't that frustrating? And you can't get it
out what we haven't figured out why yet.
And it just happened to me. How frustrating, right? Yeah, so I had it here, and then I had 5 more seconds of that video that you guys just saw, and then it went blank, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, so in that case, you guys, what you need to do is back out of the application and then reopen it. So tell me a story, if you have one there, Kurt, or your best dad joke while I'm reopening this thing. Got one?
You know, I probably had one until you said that, and then it's like anything I had, this was gone. You know, I don't know. Sometimes that works that way. Usually I've got a story too. That's
Kurt's speechless. What about you, Elvis? You have any dad jokes? I keep all my dad jokes in a database.
You know, you said that like 20 times on the Saturday morning live streams. You know, people are going to start turning us off.
Or we could just give out random trivia facts. Like, did you know, Kurt, that 70% the people that works on PowerApps actually use SharePoint as a data source instead of Dataverse?
That is an interesting number. I really find that's an interesting fact that, and I don't know how you gathered that, but I bet you have a reason or a story behind that one too.
No, I would say 63% of statistics are just made up on the fly, like that one. But this one was actually based on a poll. If you guys go over to the community tab here on the YouTube channel, I actually posted there, and there were quite a bit of responses, and that's how I came up with that percentage.
Oh no, Ellie. Oh no. Did you just see what you did?
I'm afraid
no.
Its days are numbered.
That's great. That's great.
I do see this comment here. How to upload the app in the Play Store. To be honest, I haven't done it yet, but that's an idea of something that we could do in the future. Maybe I'll finish one of these apps, maybe the ticketing system, and upload it into the App Store, and I'll document it and create a video out of it. So thanks for that video idea. Okay, so let me go back here. So you guys are probably familiar with this ticketing system. I have a whole course based on this. There's probably 8 or 10 videos out of the 35 plus videos I we created to create this ticketing system. So if I have a whole video that sort of talks about this, but I'll talk about it here as well. Okay, so I'll go down here and I'm looking for a spot where I keep track of the users. And it is not with the styles. I think it's down. Well, maybe I did pass it up. Let's see here. I know I'm scrolling very fast. Okay, here we go. You see this, and then I will. Yeah, let's make this a little bit bigger here so we can see it better. It's probably a little too much because we're word wrapping some of the code, which makes it a little less easy to work with, right? Okay, so automatically add this user if needed. So what I do here, I guess I'll just go down there. Okay. So I go look in the users table. And then if the count rows is 0, that means they're not in there. Now, one question I get, Darren, why do you use filter instead of just doing the lookup? There was 1 or 2 apps where I was doing a lookup and I checked to see if it was blank or not. And for some reason, it was just giving me problems. And I had repeat users being added to the table. I changed it to this, and then I didn't have that problem anymore. So that's why. Well, good morning to you, Kendall. I see there, data is king. So we'll check to see if they're in there, and then we'll do a patch on it. And this is pretty much what we need here. Now we won't be doing the first and last name. And then if they currently are in the database, well, we'll just load them up into this global variable here. Okay. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to hold down Shift and use my arrow. Sometimes if you drag on the code, either don't get enough or you get too much or it scrolls really fast. So that's a little tip that I'll provide to you guys, no extra charge. Or as Kurt would say, pay attention to that, guys. People pay big money for that. All right, so I'm going to go into the app on start in this new project here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down. Okay. It is probably right before here. Okay. So I'll paste that in there. And then it's going to be app users. Sort of like that better. And we do have an email field in there, and it's giving us a delegation warning. Well, if we search for this email, how many rows are coming back? It's given us this delegation warning because we're using count rows with a SharePoint list. Now, you won't get a delegation warning if you're using Dataverse, because Dataverse can return a row count greater than 2,000. But if you're using SharePoint, it brings over all the data, and then it counts it right there. But since we're filtering based on the email, they should only come back with 1 if they are in there. So I'm not concerned about this delegation issue at all. So I'll copy the name of our data source there, and I'll paste it here and here. I'll take out first and last name. Okay. Now we do have title, we got email, we have the photo. Something else I like to do is I like to find out the photo length, because some people don't have photos. And this will give me an indicator on if they're just using like the default profile photo and not their real photo. So I sort of like to add that in there to our SharePoint list. Okay, so I'm going to go click on Site Contents. Okay, this is a really good question here. Is there a way to limit the columns that SharePoint sends or makes available to PowerApps like you can with SQL? I'm not aware of how to do that, and I think I don't think it's possible, but if it is, it would be based on a view. Now, a view in SharePoint is a little different than a view in SQL Server. So what you can do is create a view with just those ones and try to, I don't know if you can really add in a view. That's something maybe we'd have to sort of research. But I know with Dataverse, if you pull over a table, it brings all the columns over. But if anything in your code doesn't reference that column, it doesn't return values. It has nulls in there. So Dataverse tries to help you out with that, but sometimes that's not a good thing because you try to put something in a collection and then you use columns elsewhere in the app on that collection, and there's no data there. And you're like, what? Why isn't there? I know there's data there. It's because it was trying to help you out. But yeah, SQL Server is my favorite data source to use, and that's just one of many reasons. Yeah, very good. I do see Amber. Welcome to the stream, Amber. If you want to come on as a panelist to show your video, if not, I'll leave you off there. Okay, so I'm going to go into the app user, and this time I'm just going to click on the ellipsis, these three dots, and I'm on settings, and I'm going to add a column. It says create column. Okay, and what was it that we need to create? Something called photo length, and I'll make it a number. And we should be good. And I'm going to go down to the very bottom and click OK. In fact, you guys probably can't see the OK button. There it is. Click OK. Now, our SharePoint list has that new column. However, PowerApps isn't going to be aware of it until we go over to data. Okay. Over to data here. And we need to go to this app user and refresh. And now we do have a photo length. Now, I don't know why it's still complaining. Let's see here. What is it complaining about? Photo does not exist. Okay, well. Oh, I called it image. How do I want to handle that? Let's just update this to say image here instead. That should work. And then down here, we do a lookup on app user. Okay. Now I'm going to stop right there and give you guys a chance to sort of look over this code. Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see more code at once. Hopefully, since I up the resolution of the live stream, you guys can see the code. Okay. And I'm going to start here at the top. So first I'm going to pose this to you, Kurt and Elvis. Do you guys see anything does all this make sense to you guys? Any questions about what I did there? And then I'm also going to pose it to the viewers as well. So I want to make sure that this is solid, that everything makes sense to you guys before I move on to the next feature.
So can I just go ahead and walk through it a little bit, just real quick?
Yes, please.
That way, maybe, if people aren't, and maybe maybe I'm missing something in it too, but I think if we go back, I think in particular, the thing that most people would be kind of looking at hard would be the image section, right? In the image section. So, because pretty much everybody, hopefully, we don't have to spend too much time in the count rows and the filter. But what we're doing there is we're setting a public variable, okay, in that var current user data. We're creating a public variable, and that's going to be the outcome. It's going to be the record of the new thing here, right? So we have the defaults going on here with a new record, and in that, then we're going to be placing that information. Now, the thing that is the most important in my book to look at and understand is the way that you're processing that image, because what you're doing is you're doing an image as text. You're not doing a regular binary object. You're doing an image as text, which I think is very helpful. But you got to play a little bit of a game in there, right? So you have that image and you're doing a substitute, and what you're doing is you're substituting whatever you're seeing inside of that JSON, that user.image. You're going to create, and you're going to put the JSON information from that image, that JSON information, using the JSON format .include binary data. That's a hard-coded enumerated value. Okay. And so you just got to put that in there. Just accept it, that it's there, and put it in there. Don't try to figure it out. Just know that that's there, and you got to put that in there. and you're going to substitute. You're going to put that JSON is going to convert that image, that real picture, into that JSON format using that include binary data. And and then so you're going to substitute that stuff with the those quotes in there. Does that make sense to everybody? You're putting the double quotes around all that. You're making sure that that's surrounded because that's a text. Okay. Now that's pretty much the hard part. Right now, in the photo length, you're taking the length of the substitute of that JSON format. So you're letting it know how big it is.
Yeah. How many bytes makes up the image? Because we're turning the image into a string, which is a little wild.
Now that's the second. That's a parameter. There's a comma after that. So you got what's that end quote? The end parentheses just above photo length. What is that closing up there?
So we're patching, and of course we got a field name value pair, right? Title. There's the email. There's the image, and here's the photo length. Are you talking about a different comma?
No, that comma right there in front of the comma above photo length. Go above photo right there. What's that parenthesis closing right there?
That is for this. That's for the substitute.
Got it. There it is. Okay, yeah, that's what I was missing. That. Okay, there it is. Yeah. So does that make sense? What I was walking through there. Does that sound understandable there?
Yeah, I see Elvis nodding, and also. Amer says, I was actually watching upload image video ticketing. Yeah. So this is something that I've explained many times in quite a few, because this is how, if you're dealing with SharePoint, this is how I do it. And I learned that it's got these double quotes in here, and then I blank it out. So if there's two double quotes together like this, I substitute with an empty string. So it gets rid of them. That's exactly, what it's doing that. And Ellie says, that wasn't very clear, Kurt.
That's very clear. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sometimes when I'm going through stuff, it's like, it makes sense in your head, but you're wondering if that even makes sense to what people were listening to. They're like, that was about as clear as mud, So
especially if you go through the explanation and then you hear crickets. Nobody says anything. It's like
right. And that's all I ever hear in my office here is crickets. That's it.
Crickets. Don't you live in the woods or something up there, Kurt?
I do. I am so far deep into the sticks that they've got to pump sunlight in here, man. I mean, I'm starting to talk hillbilly. I'm so deep in the sticks.
I see Amer says, in listening to the explanation again, refreshes it again, makes my memory strong. I like that, Kurt. That's something that you've always told me. It's like sometimes you suggest that we go down a little side shoot or create a video. And I'm like, well, I already have a video that does that. It's like, Darren, people that, need it several times. So,
or in different ways.
That's true.
Some people can understand the way you speak, and maybe a couple people can understand the way I speak. And, and maybe we'll capture between those two,
You put your stink on it, I put my stink on it, and maybe it becomes cologne.
Yeah.
Let's test this code.
That's worse than any dad joke that Ellie could have come up with.
Pretty much. I don't even know if that constitutes a.
Don't ever say that again.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate myself opening this app. So we got that code in the app on start, right? And it's going to put me in the database if I'm not there. Well, I already know that I'm not there. If I go over to SharePoint here, right? And click on app user up here on the heading, it should take me to the data, and there's no data in there. Look at that. So what I'm going to do in PowerApps is click on the ellipsis here and click on run on start. Okay, so we'll do that. Oh, look at my little spinner. Okay, so let's go over to our data source, and then I'm going to hit refresh. Oh, look at that. Now, is this what I look like, Kurt?
No, you look more, you resemble more Mel Gibson or somebody like that than that.
Mel Gibson.
I was looking at your profile picture. I was like, man, that kind of looks like Mel Gibson a little bit. Okay. Okay.
Now, remember in the app, in that code, we actually, after we did the patch, let me see here, we do a set on the current user data. So I'm going to copy that variable. What can we do with that variable, Kurt?
I don't know. Is that a trick question?
No.
Okay. We're gonna put that variable in there.
Image. Oh, look at me. This could
But
be a good.
You look like
be
that. That is what you look like then, with all the hieroglyphics that were going on there.
Thank you, Amber, for answering my question that Kurt refused to answer. So Amber says we can pull the image from that variable. Thank you, Amber.
Maybe Kurt didn't know the answer.
I like giving you a hard time, man. Makes things a little more fun.
Stay focused.
Stay focused. Yes.
Laser focused.
Laser focused.
We're running out of runway here, bud.
All right. So what I'm going to do is say, have you guys ever seen a tutorial like how to code, create your first app in C# or Java or JavaScript? What do you do with any programming language? The first thing that you learn, that your first project is a hello world.
Hello world.
Okay. So I'm going to use the ampersand to splice in. Oh, we've got that little variable there now, don't we? And what's their full name? Well, we store that in the title. Look at that. Can you guys read that okay? I can't. Okay, look at that. So we got a hello world. So, hey, our program's working. We've got some data. We're looking good so far. Okay. So I'm going to go take a look at our requirements again. And before I do, I wanted to share with you guys something that I just find it's amazing, right? So I'm going to pull this down. Kurt, when you started talking about the code, like going over the code, I went over to ChatGPT. I want to show you how powerful this is. This is PowerApps code. Please provide good code comments for this. So I just pasted the one I had minus the comments. And I wanted to see how many comments they would come up with. Look at this. Use the if function to check if the current user exists. Now, it might make sense for me to maybe open this up in Notepad because I almost want some. Let's see. There we go. This might be easier to see. Yeah, look at these comments, guys. See if the current user exists. How did it know that? It looked at the code and figured it out. Is that not cool or what, guys? Come on.
That's
Count the
really
number of
cool.
rows. If no matching rows are found, if the user doesn't exist, this is amazing. We got comments on each field. Set the title field, the user's full name. I don't know if I could have done a better job. And how long did it take me? Like 10 seconds?
Really, that actually, I shouldn't say this on live because this could be dangerous, but just putting this out there. Look, man, you know how we go through and we look up reference, like we don't know how to do something. We're trying to figure out how to do a function. So why not just type it in the code and then ask ChatGPT to do a comment on it? It'll teach us how to do it. It's a better reference than going out and trying to find something,
Well, yeah. I mean, if you could imagine going out to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm working with PowerApps. How do I add users' information into a SharePoint list, blah, 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 blah. And it might give you something. I don't know if it'll be as good as my code. I'm just disclaimer, guys.
Right.
It just couldn't possibly be as good as my code.
Could not be. But if you wanted to know, like, I want to do update if, and I can't make my update if work right. So I'm going to go, instead of going into a reference on update if, I'm going to type update if in there and say, comment on that, ChatGPT. What am I doing there? And maybe it would tell you how to do it.
Absolutely. So, Kurt, I want to know how much you're paying the accelerators. And we got Patty, Kurt knows all, and then we got Ellie that says, thank you, Kurt. I don't appreciate you paying off the students, Kurt, for these comments.
Well, that's no worse than you paying me off to say that you look like Mel Gibson. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what's fair is fair, right?
We got to laugh out at Elvis on that. That's cool. And we got a smiley face. And then Wes says that profile pic is hitting everyone in the chat room right now. Oh, what a good what some good times, right? This is like every day is Saturday. Oh, today is Saturday.
It must be Saturday.
I do have something to show you guys. Check this out.
If you're getting anything helpful out of this, a comment or even a like really helps the channel, and lets people like you know this is good content. Much appreciated.
Now, I do have a video where Kurt talks about how much he loves PowerApps and teaching and how every day is Saturday. I might play that later. I don't know. Some of you have probably already seen it before. All right, so we're cooking in this app. We're getting things done.
Let's get done.
Dare I say we're having fun. Okay, if we're going to have users in here, what about managing our users? Oh, look at this. My little photo is hitting everybody in the chat room. It's hitting me in the face here because whenever you add something to a screen and you got stuff like a menu, you need to make sure that menu's on top of everything. And then you need to go find your spinner if you have a custom spinner like I do. I had somebody ask me in the free community earlier this week. Let me actually show you guys so you guys can see this. Where is this? Oh, here it is. So I'm going to put an overlay at the very top of the screen so you guys can see this. I have a free community, guys, and so you're welcome there to go out and ask me or Kurt or Elvis questions. You can post screenshots of your code. We're a YouTube comment. You guys really can't share your screenshots, right? And sometimes I recommend that you record your screen. There's a free tool out there called loom.com. That's LOOM.com. And I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I'm just a customer of theirs, and I really like their tool for recording the screen. You can record your screen and post a link into the school environment. That link is at the very top of the screen there. And you can interact with us. But it's just a better way for us to support you guys, because we do get a lot of comments on the YouTube channel like, hey, I've got some code here that's not working, and I try my best to answer people's questions there, but it's like I need more information, and so the school environment is just better for that. Also, I give away my crash course for free in the community. Okay, so if you go on that link, you'll get my crash course. The crash course is actually pretty cool. In fact, if you want to hear more about it, I got some information about that.
Hi, my name is Elvis. I had always wanted to build applications with the Microsoft Power Apps, but I didn't know where to start. I tried to go online to get tutorials that would help me learn. At some point, I got frustrated and I didn't just know how to go. I didn't just know how things work. Not until I discovered Darren's crash course on Power Apps. It was a total game changer for me. He explained everything in simple ways that helped me understand the concept of things and how things work. He taught me best practices and tips that made my apps more faster, more efficient, and user-friendly. I would recommend this course to you, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or an expert. There are even things I didn't know you could do with Power Apps, not until I went through this course. So save yourself time and resource and go through this course.
Yeah, what's so cool about that crash course is that, what's that? Yeah,
I think we've got a movie star in the making over here, man. That's a good video, Elvis. You did good, man.
Yeah, I really like that video.
I do too.
One of the really cool things about it's got an app in a day. So, Microsoft does these free things that you can called app in a day, and they go over a lot of little things. And I feel like they, I won't compare my module app in a day to theirs because it's completely different. Okay, but my app in a day module actually takes you through creating a functional application, doing it the way that I would teach someone. So that's just one of the 3 modules that's in the crash course. So I thought I'd mention that. Okay, so whenever you have some data that needs to be managed by your application, sometimes you don't want the normal user to modify the data, but you might have a manager of the organization or a manager within a department to manage the data. And in that case, you would make them an application administrator. So built into my Jumpstart kit, we have something here called application administration. So I'm going to click on that link and look at this. We have a blank screen. Okay. So let's use this perhaps as a dashboard to go manage our users. Okay. And there's all these screens that are included in the Jumpstart Kit. If I go over to new screen, what you'll notice here is I have a gallery, and I've got some edit fields over here. And I set it up this way on purpose because I don't like to waste time on stuff that I've already done before. And I'll just duplicate that screen. And once that comes up, I'm going to rename it to be App Admin, and we'll say Manage Users. Okay. And then what I'll do is I like to sort of keep these in order in which how they're going to be used. So I'll actually move an App Admin screen down below to be with the other related screen. So I've had Application Administration screen there, and then I've got this other one. Okay. Now what I'll do while I'm on this screen is I'll copy the name of it, Control C, and what I am going to do is go to copy controls from here, grab myself a nice looking button that I'd like to use. In this case, this is the button. I'll hit Control C. I'll go over to my app admin, manage users here. Actually, the app admin screen. This is where I wanted to put the button to allow the app admins to get to that screen without creating like another menu item, because we only have so much space for a menu here. And what I'm going to say is manage users. Okay. Did you know? You guys just saw me change the name of that button over there. You know, you double click on a button, you can actually change it right here. I don't know. It took me a while to realize, wow, I can change that. And you have to double click in there and you can start typing. You see that? I hit cancel. It didn't allow me to do that.
I never knew that, Darren.
Huh?
I never knew that. Do it again. I never knew that.
Yeah, double click on the video on the button there, and it selects it, and you can just start typing.
Huh.
Isn't that cool?
Huh. Cool.
No extra charge, guys. No extra charge.
Yeah. Yeah.
For free.
All right, and I'll probably size this down a little bit. There we go. I'll put it in the middle of the screen so the app admins will know exactly where to go to do that. Now, I'm going to open this up or click on the button here. I should probably name it something appropriate, right? Otherwise, Kurt would mark me off when I was a student. He would mark me off if I wasn't consistent and didn't do best programming practices, right?
What's the rule on naming those things? When are you supposed to name those things?
Well, if you're ever going to reference that control in code, that's when you should name it. But in this case, I'm not going to reference that button anywhere in code. However, if you look over here in the tree view, it's so if I had button 1, button 2, button 3, and I'm looking to click on that over here, it's going to allow me to find it much easier.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another cool tip and trick. So you know how I can go over here and I can say reorder send backwards. So I don't want to be on top of my spinner or my nav bar. There is a key combination that will save you tons of time, and it's your square brackets. Just hold down Control, and if I use a right square bracket,
It goes
it
down.
will move it up. If I use a left square bracket, it will move it down.
Nice. Very nice. I like it.
Picasso. All right, so we are on selectors. I'm going to open up this code for our button, and we're going to navigate. We're going to navigate over to a different screen, and I'm going to use single quotes. Okay, now I was going to paste over the name of the screen. I think we've lost that on the clipboard, but have we really? So I'll use Windows V. Oh, look at this. There it is.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so your clipboard has a little bit of history there. You need to enable it if you're on Windows V instead of Control V. It's very useful. And Kurt's favorite screen transition is what?
Cover.
That's right. All right, so we'll go over there. Now let's test out our code. I'm going to save it. We should be saving early and saving often. We'll run it, and boom, we'll go over here to the users. Now, this doesn't look like user data, does it? Go back over here. I'll click on this gallery. Oh, I don't want to use screen use. I want to use app user. And now I've got all kinds of errors. Let's see what's going on.
You got measles. Your program has the measles.
That's hilarious. So we'll have open the their name, and also, I mean, we could display the email, but if you click on it, you have the email off to the right. I think for this case, what I might do, I might change this up because I want people's photos to be in here, right? And I'm going to take that guy out. Okay, let's try to make this really pretty here. So I'm going to go over to the right side on this gallery. I'm going to make this like 120. It's going to be a little bigger than what it was before. I'm going to add in an image to this gallery. Very good. And what we'll do here is we'll say this item dot image. Oh, look, there's me. Yeah, okay. And we could, we might have some room for some other stuff here, and maybe we could have, look at this gallery. We could set this up. You see this wrap count? If we set that up to 2, it will go right, left, so we can see more people at once. So you could do that, or you can keep it as 1. Really doesn't matter. But over here on the right side, look at these control. We have 3 controls set up right now. Okay, so right now, if we click on that, we have this gallery.selected.title. Okay, well, that works. What about for this other one? Instead of select, so what we'll do here is we'll say email. And we don't have any notes. So what I'm inclined to do is bring over another image so you can see an image here. And I don't necessarily want an app admin to change someone's photo. I almost would want a staff member to change their own photo. So I am going to this white so it's not see-through. And what I'll say is I might actually delete that that text box. Yeah, text input 16. Let's go ahead and let's remove it. Here we go. And instead of notes, this is probably very, very small, right? So let me try to do a little bit of zooming in here. Very good. So we've got notes. Let's call that actually image. Okay, and then for this image, what image do we want? Well, we want this gallery over here. So I'm going to click on the gallery. Now, can we think of a better gallery name? Because we are referencing this with code. Gal. User listing. That's probably more meaningful. Okay, so for the image, let's say that gallery.selected dot image. Oh, there I am. Very good. And then instead of screen name, this should be email address. Or just email. And instead of title, I'll say full name. So if you needed an edit screen, this is how you'd go about it. And then down here in the save button, we need to make sure our patch is set up. Okay. So that's blank right now. Well, we need to know if we're working with a new record or an existing record. So typically what I do is I try to use local variables as much as possible. So we'll say update context. We'll say loc for local, new record. Change that to true. Now if they click on somebody different in the gallery, I want that to be set to false. Change that to false. And also, after I save someone, I'll set that to false as well. Okay. And then what we can do here is we will have a, let's do a set, I'm sorry, a patch. Hopefully everybody's familiar with the patch syntax. I do have a really good detailed video on patch. So if you do a search for Darren Neese on patch, you'll find it. So we're going to look for app users. That is the data source. What's that, Kurt?
The nice thing about the patch, if you don't know about patch, we use it so much on these live streams that you're going to figure it out just by just hanging in there with it, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to check to see if we have a new record. Okay, look, new record. If it isn't, what happened there? Where did my code go? There we go. So this second parameter for this patch, I'll have to check to see if it exists there, or if it's an existing record or a new one. Okay, and we need to give the patch function an appropriate value based on that yes, no, true, false value. If it is a new record, we'll use defaults. Okay. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll go over to gallery and we'll call it user listing, something like that. Yeah, user listing dot selected. Now the dot selected property will give us the currently selected record out of that gallery, which is exactly what the patch needs. So get rid of some of the spacing here. Now the question is, does this portion make sense of patch? So we got title. What is the text box that holds this? TXT full name. Let's use that. And then for the email, let's say TXT email. Title TXT full name. But we need to say dot text. I don't know that it's required to say dot text anymore. I think they changed it so it's like, oh, the default property is text. But I always like to be very explicit. I was taught that by my mentor back in the 1990s. TXT email text. Okay.
Way back in the last century.
Yeah. Is that 19? What's funny is you ask somebody like Kurt, what was the year of your birth? Your date of birth. And let's say Kurt says 1952. What, 1952? Of course, I'm in that century as well. So we're updating the title and the email. We're not going to update the image. I don't want to get on that. Otherwise, the video, most of the video will be about it. And I also have a lot of videos that do that right now. So we have, let's add a new user here. Okay, when I click on add new user, nothing's really happening here. And that involves the default property. So if we click on this text box here, it's just using whatever's selected. Well, what we need to do is check to see that look, new record. If it's new, then we'll say empty string. Otherwise, we'll use what is selected. And of course, we need to do the same thing for the email. I'll paste that in. Okay. Hopefully this code makes sense. And you're going to see the effect of it here in just a moment. Okay. And I'll do the same thing for image. Okay. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a weird thing because you don't want to put an empty string in an image. So what I'll say is sample image. Okay. Sample image. So if I click on me, Darren, there's my data. And let me move things around a little bit here. And if I click on add new, it blanks things out for a new record. So I'm going to say John Doe, John at Doe.name, save. And there we go. Now I might do the same thing over here. If we don't have an image, remember how we kept track of the image length? Okay, so what I might do here is if this item dot image length, photo length, As long as it's greater than 0, then I'll use this item.image. Otherwise, I want to use sample image.
Could you also just check for blank there?
Um,
Or is there a reason why you don't?
you could. So let's say nobody, let's say a user didn't set their image. Well, there is a default image. It just looks like an outline of somebody's head and shoulders, and that actually will have a length. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll get that length, and instead of saying greater than 0, let's say it's 2045. Okay. I would change 0 with the 2045, because if it's anything less than that, or exactly that, I know it's the default photo. But in this case, I probably want to display that generic photo, because this image right here that I'm using, the sample image, just looks like a landscape. It's not even an image of a person, so there's different ways we can definitely slice this.
It looks like somebody got on and saw that we're at 1080p finally.
Oh, very good, guys. I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure that out. Yeah, very cool. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, so glad that I got that going this morning. So thank you for letting me, making me aware of that it looks so bad. I had no idea it looked that bad. What about the automatic initial of the name as an image? Oh, well, that's interesting. Think about that. How would we do that, Kurt?
Well, you could have a library out there with images within the initial if you wanted to.
This is a little bit of a trick question. It's a funny little segue.
Okay.
If we go into this, these are our controls, right? You guys see all that? I know it's probably very small. Okay. Let's go into settings right now. There are additional controls that we could use. Okay. So I'm going to go to upcoming features, and I'll type in modern. Oh, modern controls and themes. That's interesting. Okay. Before I do that, though, I want to make sure that the theme, because we're going to lose access to this theme, and I make sure it has light as the theme, because I like having shades of gray. If there's some weird color there, set that up before I do this, and it is. So I'll go back into settings, and I'll type in. Now, I actually like your response, Kurt, because you come from the old school of C, C++, and you would write your own libraries. Yeah. And maybe it was more efficient than something that was sitting out there in the community, or at the very least, exactly how yours works, and you might begin to like your functions and your libraries better.
I used to call it my bag of tricks. I used to literally, I had whenever I was going to do a project, I would say, they'd say, how long is it going to take, and how much is it going to cost? And I said, can I use my libraries? If I can use my libraries, that changes everything. It'll be much faster. Right. But I used to put them on CDs. Some of you guys don't even know what a CD is. No, I'm not talking about the financial thing. I'm talking about the discs. I used to put them in safety deposit boxes. Yeah. And the bag of tricks.
All right. So now what we can do is I'm going to try to add something in here in the gallery. I'll go to the insert menu and look at what we have here. Oh, now we got modern controls. What's all this stuff about? Well, I did see, and they're adding some new stuff out there. It's really interesting. I'm going to have to create some new videos on each of these, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking for, let's look at what a badge is. What is a badge? AB.
Nice. Look at that.
AB. What's AB?
Very nice.
Well, I don't want it to say AB. Look at the content. Oh, it's just a literal string.
Change the string in there. Very cool.
How do we grab their initials, Kurt? Like, where are their initials at? How can we figure this out? I don't know how to what. Elvis, you got any ideas? How do we?
That's Elvis. Elvis configure. What can we do to get their initials?
I don't know yet. Let's see.
Think it through. You're being
Well-
tested right now.
Yeah, this is a test for you, Elvis. You're not on no pressure or anything, but yeah, you're
No
on the
pressure.
spot.
No pressure, Elvis.
Okay, I'm looking at Amber's comments. Add a field as initials in the app users table. Well, that's not a bad idea. I like how you're thinking about it. But if we have the field out there, how do we get it into that field? Now you might say, well, just add another text box there, and then the app admin can go in and do it. What if we could just do it dynamically and not have to have an admin like, oh, okay, here's their initials. We have their full name. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at this item. We have a full name. Whoops, not a full path. It's called title, right? Let's do something fancy here, guys.
You're not gonna split the atom, are you? Here,
I might.
you're gonna split the atom.
Uh-huh.
You know what happens when you split the atom, right? It goes boom.
Then you just use concat to bring it back together.
That's right.
Yeah. So we could let's say something like split. Now what does split do? Kurt or Elvis?
What? I'll let Elvis answer. You know, Elvis?
So what a split does is that it looks at a separator, gives you is in the record.
Yeah.
So
the first thing is, let's say, a long string or it's a string of some sort, right? And then you got commas or a space or a pipe, and you want it broken down into an array or in a collection. So that's what that does.
or a list. Just a simple list. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's going to take it, and in fact, if you look, sometimes it'll actually give you a description. You see this little thing that popped up right on top of my code? It's actually giving us the two parameters here. Okay. Now we're putting this into this control, and I believe that it's expecting a single string, but what we're giving it is an array, a collection, or a list. So we need to create a string out of this. Okay, and I'm looking at Amber's comments. He says first and last functions. That's a decent way of doing this. So let's do something. Yeah, let's do first.
Yeah. How are you storing that? Are you storing it just first space last?
So their full name is first space last. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And let's say, do we have a value? No. So we'll say first. Okay, and then we'll do an ampersand.
Yeah.
And then we'll do last.
There you have it.
Well, I was pausing. I was trying to make up my mind if I wanted to use a with block for this, because whenever you see a repetition of code, you might want to start in one block of code there. Repetition there, you might want to create a with block, so you don't have to have a big long formula and being called over and over. You just call it once, and sometimes that's better. So it's giving me an error.
What?
And it doesn't like it. Okay, so I'm going to say dot value. Yeah, it wants a dot.
There it is. There it is. Yep.
Ooh, look at that. What happened here?
Well, that didn't work.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know it could do something. I thought it was just going to be a circle and give me. I wasn't even thinking about the first characters.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's just giving us the full name again. And
So
that
now
sort of looks cool, but what's that?
That's very cool. So now it's this real simple matter of using another function, right?
Yeah. So the question to you guys is, what function do we use to get that first character
What is it?
out of
Elvis?
the string?
How are we gonna
Elvis,
get the first?
remember?
How are we gonna
Yeah,
get the first
we
character,
could-
Elvis?
Why don't we use the left function to get the first character in the string? So we do
Good
that
stuff.
for the first name and the last name. And
Good stuff.
So I just typed this in here, left, and then I did a comma 1. What's up with the 1, Elvis? Why do I use just 1?
Yeah, you use 1 to get just the first character. When you use 2, it returns 2 values. So we need the initials. So 1 is enough.
Yeah, I
Very
like it.
nice.
And for the width,
He actually might get an A today, man. He's, you know, I haven't figured out anything to take points off yet.
so
Wow.
yeah. So Rosa, what a great suggestion there, because I it gave us a chance to talk about the modern controls of why you might want to use something like that. I mean, we could have created it with like a label or a shape or something, but hey, why not use a modern control here? Okay, so we've got that. All right, so now we need to make progress on some of the other features of this. Okay, we need to like get down to more of these requirements. So we've got users that's kept track of. What about leads? Well, let's actually duplicate this screen, because we might have not this screen. Let's go look for like a listing type of a screen. Okay, loading screen, no. New screen, no. Blank. I was pretty sure I had a listing screen somewhere. Okay, so how we can do this is I will take the screen that we just worked on. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it. That's going to be very easy to come up with a listing. Okay, and we'll say lead listing screen. Okay, and then I'm going to move this up. I wish there was a shortcut to moving screens around within this, like that square bracket thing. That would be very nice. Okay, now this will be a screen that most users will use. So I'll move this up. Okay, so now we've got this. And then what I want to end up doing is taking a lot of these things out. Okay, and we'll have this gallery take up the full screen. And you like how my little heading went along with it? If you look at my Jumpstart kit, I have all this dynamically set up to dynamically change with the gallery underneath. And then for this gallery, I don't want to have 2 records per row, so I'll change that back to 1. Okay, and then let's go create our leads list. Site contents. Okay, blank list, and we'll call this leads. Maybe try to keep things singular with table names. Lead. We have some of the similar things. So we'll put their full name there and title. We'll add a column for the email. I'll zoom in here and we'll say email. Single line of text. Save. We want to keep track of their phone number if they provided it. Very good. And let's put in here location as well. And you just put in whatever details that you know. Maybe it might be the continent or the country or the city and country, So there's the location. And I'll also have in one more link to, let's say if you're using some type of CRM system, and if you want to go look at that contact in your CRM, you might have a link with the customer ID or the lead ID that will go directly to that record, and that's what we'll use this for. And sometimes URLs can be really long, right? CRM link. Notice I don't put any spaces. I'm not using choice fields. I'm not using some type of a lookup column. I'm sticking to the simple data types. And Howard actually asked a really good question here. Why is it important to keep the table names singular? Well, something that my mentor taught me was that you should always be consistent, number one. Whenever you start to work with Dataverse as a PowerApps developer, you're going to be working with SharePoint, hopefully Dataverse, maybe even some SQL Server here and there, okay? And what you want to do, and I've seen this with a lot of policies put forth by database administrators and a lot of organizations, and they'll actually say that all table names should be singular, okay? And I think if you don't specify either singular or plural, you might have some tables singular, some plural to be inconsistent, and it's like, well, was it singular? You got to go look it up. So something else in Dataverse, you give it a name like customer, and it will pluralize it. It'll say customers, and then over in PowerApps, you have to say customers. Okay, now SharePoint doesn't do that, but what I'm trying to do is keep consistent, no matter whether I'm in SharePoint, Dataverse, or SQL Server. So that's the way that I do it. If you want to go with plural and there's no DBA going, that type of, just be consistent. Yeah. Ding dong, ding dong. Access denied. And Wes is asking a great question. How many SharePoint lists do y'all tend to have in an average app? I'd say 1 or 2 dozen tables, but it could be 50 to 100. And in that case, I would definitely recommend that you have the app broken down. So I would create an app for if it's a really large application, have an app for app admins, one for the normal users or different departments, if they're different anyway. So your application doesn't load up and has 50 to 100 screens, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, CRM link. Something I will do for a link is I'll try to increase this. Let's see if I can. Okay, I can only do 255. Let's actually make this multiple lines of text. And we'll make sure it's not a rich text field. Okay, that's good. So the link can be, I've seen links that are like 500, 1,000, 2,000 characters. That's so many parameters. So I want our system to be fairly flexible in that regard. I'm going to go back over here, make sure we have this data source added to our PowerApps. So we'll go over to data. And let's add some data. Go down to connectors. We'll go find SharePoint. And we are using SharePoint online, not an on-premise SharePoint, which is a way of the old way of doing things. So I'm going to click on leads and sales here. And there is our lead table. I'll connect to that. Okay. And then once that comes up, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to change this to lead, not load, lead. Okay, now we don't have any data in here yet. So what I'm going to do here is, I don't know that I want an image in there. I might keep this little thing that we did that Rosa was suggesting. I sort of like that.
Well, you know what? I think it's great. I'm 2 things. Number one, we'd never come up with that idea without Rosa coming up with that idea. So that just shows you how important collaboration is. And
yes.
And number 2, regardless if you use this or not, at least I know how to do it now. At least now we know where to go look. I would have never thought about looking at a badge. Somewhere in the dark recesses of your brain, you went back there and saw what badge was, and you knew about it. And so I would have never known that if you didn't share that. So I think we all gain from it, regardless if you use it or not. So.
Absolutely. I would say, so guys, in the accelerator program, I don't know if you guys know much about the accelerator program. I talk about it just every once in a while. I don't like to harp on it too much because I don't want to sound like a commercial or anything. Right. But it's actually probably, I don't know, what would you guys say, like half the value of just being part of this small, tight-knit group of people that we meet with. We have 4 live group calls a week. And so we hang out together, we share things, we go over topics, anything that's giving people a hard time, and we make sure people are not stuck. And if we can't cover it on there, then what Kurt and I do, we have a list of videos that we need to create or example little sample labs.
Yeah.
But having all these people, I mean, we have somebody from Switzerland that he might know more about data than I do. He's really good in SQL
Yeah.
Server, really good with data.
Yeah. Very technical. Very technical he is.
Yeah, everybody that comes in has a little something. So,
Yeah.
We have somebody in from the legal industry. We have somebody in from the safety industry. It's like, hey, I'm trying to create a safety checklist app for one of my clients. Well, we might know somebody named Jeff in our group that will sort of give you like, hey, in the safety industry, you're looking for these 5 things to be in any checklist. Kurt and I couldn't have given that to you. Now we can help you with PowerApps. We can help you with software development, and we try to share all these things. But Elvis might know something that we had no idea. Like maybe I didn't know about these modern controls, and he knew about them. So
yeah, there's so much I wish you just got my mind's just being triggered in 400 different ways right now. Things I want to say, but I just can't say enough about plugging into a network of people who are equally as passionate about programming and learning how to code in PowerApps as I am, as you are. And I think Amber said it one time when he said, it's just such a great platform where nobody's judging anybody. We're all just having a good time. We're all having fun learning. It's kind of like doing this today. I mean, we're having fun, we're learning. But it's like that every day Saturday. It's literally every day Saturday because we're enjoying this. And I cannot think of one person who in that accelerator who has not contributed something. So invest in yourself. If you're going to do anything in life, you invest in yourself. You bet on yourself and invest in yourself, and then plug into something bigger than you. I think we had an accelerator student say that just recently. Said the main thing I'm getting out of this is the network. And I think you hit it right on the head. 50%. It's got to be 50%. Is that network? So.
And I wasn't even expecting that.
No.
And it just turned out that way.
Yeah.
That's
what's so exciting. Right.
One of my accelerator students was actually vacationing here in Orlando, Florida, and reached out to me, hey, Darren, you want to meet up for lunch? I'm like, absolutely. And I met with her. We had a good time down around the Disney area and stuff. And I feel like we're making lifelong, relationships here. And in business, I think it's all about relationships. You treat people right and look for win-win situations. And I feel like, Kurt, that's what you did with me, man. I don't know if that you were intending on doing that, but you treated me so well. You're so hard on me that I realized I better listen to this guy,
It's so funny to hear you say that because I remember going through it. You hated me. There were times when you couldn't stand me in that whole thing.
You called me a baby programmer. You called me this. You called me that.
Darren, let me tell you something so you're not ignorant all your life, Darren.
And not the good kind either. Go ahead.
No, that's what I was just saying. I would say that all the time. Yeah, so to hear you say how well I treated you and juxtapose that with how bad the experience was for you in the moment, it's so funny, man. But you know what? Everybody's got to learn from the burn. You don't learn from being comfortable. You learn from taking you out of your comfort zone. And that's why I always pick on people. Like, I picked on Ellie earlier today. Just try to, do something to where it stretches you a little bit because that's when you're going to learn. And sometimes it don't feel good in the moment, but I'm really glad. The reason why you became a good programmer is because you stuck with it. You didn't give up. You didn't give up on yourself. You didn't give up on me or the process. And I guess that's what I'm saying that to encourage everybody else, because you guys are all going to have those moments out there where it's not comfortable, where you can't get it, where you're not getting it. But that's what makes you good. That's what makes you a really good programmer. So don't ever give up, man. Yep.
Yeah, I remember it was the night of the final, and it was a level 2 class. It was an advanced class. And you're like, here you go, Darren. He just walked over to my desk, 10 feet away. Here's your final lab. And I looked, and there's red marks. I put my heart and soul into it. And man, I had to go for a walk and question, what am I doing with my life? If I want to be a programmer or whatever. I thought I was failing.
Yeah. That's great.
Anyway. All right. So I'm thinking with this screen here, is that so this will be a listing of all of our leads. Okay, we'll have a button to add a new. Well, it's not a user; it's a new lead. Okay, add a new lead. I like that, and it could be a little, maybe 180, a little wider. This over a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we need an add edit screen for these leads. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go down and find us the this screen. I sort of like that. Let's duplicate that screen, and I'm going to move it up. Just keeping an eye on the comments.
Yeah, I was gonna say Urs just said, "Thank you for the flowers. Love you too." And I see Howard Nathan's in there, and I just want to say we were just talking about accelerator students and people bringing things to the table, and Howard he had something that he's been just banging his head against the wall with for quite some time, and I just kind of wanted to put it out there that this weekend I'm planning on having a video to address that issue, Howard. So I'm excited. So now and yeah, so just let you know we got progress going for you.
No headbangers allowed in the accelerator. If you're banging your heads against the wall, you need to let us know. No
Right.
headbanging.
No headbanging.
At least not longer than a day or two, right?
This is not the headbangers ball.
All right. So what we're going to do here, we might pass a parameter to that screen and say, give it some curly braces and say LOC new record true. Okay, we'll do that. And we'll save it. We'll run it and test this out. And it goes over to this screen. Now, this is our user screen, right? Well, I duplicated the user screen because this might be very similar. Okay, so I don't think that we want any gallery in here. So I'm going to rip that out. Rip. Oh my. And then in these little edit things here, and there are edit controls, what we need to do is look at another local variable called the loc loc record. That's what I like. Loc record. And so I'll change that there. So over here on the lead listing screen, if they click on this, what do I want to have happen? Well, I want to go over to the on select. Okay. And we're saying loc record equals false. I don't know that we really need that for this screen. I'm going to say navigate, just like we did a few moments ago. Put in some SQL quotes. And what we'll say is screen transition dot, I like fade. And then these curly braces will say LOC new record false. So it's pretty clear if we know if it's a new record or not. But then we'll say loc record equals this item there in that gallery. What is the screen? Well, I think that we've lost it on the clipboard, or have we? We'll use Windows V. Oh, there is the name.
Show off.
But I clicked on it twice, so I messed up my own thunder there of showing off.
I think that's a great little hockey. That's a power user trick right there. I love it.
Yeah. All right, hit Control S. Always create those manual restore points for your version history within PowerApps. Okay, so if I run this, but there's no records for me to click on, right? So what I'm going to do is hit add new record. Okay, here we go. Now, do we have measles still? We do have measles. Okay, I know that we probably do have some controls. We don't have this gallery, right? You know what I think I might do is add a gallery back just momentarily. no. Blank vertical. Okay, because I want that header to come back. I probably was a little premature ripping that out there. I should probably remove things in a certain order. So I'm going to select all these things, delete that first, and then I can delete this guy, and hopefully we won't have additional issues there. All right, so we're checking on this new record, and we're going to look at LOC. Now look at this. We have 2 new records. New record is, oh, one of them's misspelled. That's bad. Look at this for a second. I want to replace that in the project anywhere it's found. I'm going to replace it here. Record. Okay. And we have 18 places where it's being used. I'm going to replace all 18. Hopefully everybody understands what I was doing there. Unexpected replacement. Okay, well, let's see. Failed to rename to an empty string. Okay. So here we're going to say, look, new record. Okay, now it's working better here. And instead of new record here, we'll say loc record. Okay. This. We'll say title. Very good. And then I'm going to get rid of the image there.
It's happy now.
What's that?
I say it's happy now. It was throwing errors.
Yeah. So, yeah, it sort of messed me up here. So I'm going to copy that. Let me go do a search for that, this update context with the colon. And then what I'm going to do is hopefully replace that with, oh, I don't think I put the replacement here. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I did wrong. Was that what you're trying to point out to me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry I didn't catch that. All right, so instead of that, I want to make sure it says LOC new record. So that should take care of it. I'm going to replace 5 of those. There we go. All right, we're making progress here. Okay. Now I'm going to take out this add new. We don't want an add button on this screen. What I want to do is I want to have a big area because we have quite a few things that we might want to update. On the save button, I like this code. However, well, we need loc new. I think I messed several things up. Oh my goodness. Let's look at this thing here. Let's
What'd you do, Darren?
I messed it up really bad. You know what people always tell me? It's like, oh, I love it when you make mistakes. So it sort of shows me that, you know, this is how coding is, guys. It's not, you know, you watch a video on coding or even PowerApps, and it's like, it's typically highly edited, and they'll just cut that out. You think that it's just so easy, and like when you have a problem, like what's wrong with me, right? I see Elvis laughing. Absolutely,
it's so funny
That's
because not. Go ahead, Elvis. Were you saying something?
Yeah, that's true. Because most of the videos you see online, they're so edited, and you feel everything is just easy. Then when you try doing it, you're like, no, how?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's not
What's
just-
funny is listening to Darren again. I remember it was about a year ago, maybe a little more. He was talking about coming off his live stream, and I was talking to him on the phone, and he's like, man, I just feel terrible. He said, I just hate it when I make mistakes out there. You know, I'm out there and I'm fumbling around for an hour trying to get something to work, and it should just be so easy, and I just something simple, and then these guys think I'm an idiot. I just don't like it, you know. And I'm like, no, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because then that people can see that that's the real programming. They actually see, and if it's going to happen to an expert, then it must be going to happen to me, you know, because so many people give up because they can't figure it out. So, and they think, well, I'm just not smart enough. Well, an expert is super smart, so they know. And if they're still struggling with that, even knowing what they know, then how much more is it going to be me doing it, right? So, yeah, I love that. I love that dynamic that you bring in these live streams. I don't always like it in the moment, but I love it, that dynamic though.
Because when we fix issues like this together, we learn something new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think it bothers me even more if I can't get to the bottom of. I remember one time we were doing a live stream, Kurt, and it was something to do with like a HTML control not having an image inside.
Yeah.
And it turns out that control has a problem displaying images right. It wasn't on me. It was just like a little quirk of the control.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad. I was messing around with that for maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And hey, Amber, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Is it cold up there in the North Pole?
It's kind of cold, not that cold, but the temperature dropped drastically since yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yesterday was like 20 degrees, now it's 10.
Well, just to let the world know, it's actually 81 degrees here in a sunny Orlando. I thought people always want to know what it's like here in Florida, so I like to let people know that without the asking.
81 Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that in Celsius? Maybe I'll create a PowerApps app that will tell me what.
Well, yes, you should actually.
Absolutely.
I actually have that in one of my labs, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what we do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah. There's this function that we did in PowerApps. It's there. Yeah, I remember. Lab 1, I guess.
Yeah.
Was something I did it in.
You were showing this controls and maths using maths in
Yeah.
PowerApps.
Okay.
The
Yep.
Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Yep. There it is. Yeah. So I have a video on that there.
I'm gonna do this thing now. Something that may not be evident sometimes is I have these little squares hidden away. In the Jumpstart kit, I've got this little thing of debugging, so I'll hide and show that I use this all the time. And I have a video on my YouTube channel that shows you how to implement this in your own project. Okay, so I'm gonna take this little square. It's a 20 by 20. Kurt would call these gutters. Isn't that what you call that? Like it.
Yeah,
terms of
I didn't come up with that, but I made it profound. Actually, that comes from the old printing industry. The old
Really?
Yeah.
All right, so everything's spaced out here, nice. Okay. So the other things that we need to keep track of for a lead is we got full name, email. We need phone, location, and link.
Seems like we had somebody in our program that was come from the printing industry too. Can't remember who that
Yeah.
was. I remember him talking about that. Yeah. Maybe not talking about gutters, but talking about the old printing industry. Just brought back memories when you said that.
Yeah. Yeah, we have people in quite a few diverse areas. I know we've got some accelerator students that are going for their Six Sigma belt.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's always a great. I'm sure it's like a martial art. You got different belts to go for, and they're using a PowerApps application project for their black belt test or the green belt test.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Right. So we got full name, email, let's see here, phone, and then we've got location. Okay. Link to the CRM. Okay. So. Now, Kurt, do you remember back in the old VB6, you could select a bunch of things, right-click on all of them, and say, space these things out vertically
Yeah.
with the exact same size,
Yeah.
And I wish that they had – oh,
We
They
have
got
a-
alignment.
what is that? We do have – when did they add that? They didn't have that in there before.
Darren, you showed that to me.
Are you serious?
Microsoft has
Kurt.
been secretly making updates.
Kurt, I've forgotten more about PowerApps than
Than I'll ever know.
I'm
You've
not
forgotten
gonna
more
say
than I'll ever know.
I actually say that about you. Kurt's forgotten more things about databases than most people know about databases. Is
Which says I've forgotten an awful lot then, right? Jeez, he's forgotten stuff.
well, you're no spring chicken, Kurt.
No.
Okay. You know what I think might be a good idea for this? Well, we need a cancel button. That's what I was going to do over here on this. Copy controls from here. We'll grab this little off purple.
That's the coolest intervention you've come up with out of everything you've ever done in your life. Is that right there? Is that copy controls from here? I just think that's so
What
cool.
about my dynamic theming?
Yeah, but you did all that to say copy controls from here. Yeah, in other words, you created that dynamic theme to make your controls look like that so you can copy controls from here. So
That's
really, it's a package. It's a package deal.
So, guys, if you're getting tired of purple, well, let's look at what else we have. We got like this dashboard theme going on. We got an orange and blue.
You had a light.
Whenever somebody asks me for like a new theme, like
Light theme. That's what I like. I love that light theme.
I do too.
I just absolutely love that light theme.
Let's change it up, Kurt. So in order to change this, you go up to the app on start where all these things are defined. And then we will scroll down looking for that light theme. There's the blue theme.
Howard said that was probably me. Yeah, I thought it was you, Howard, talking about the printing industry. I remember him talking about that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the term gutters, Howard? Using the term gutters in that printing industry? Maybe you'll probably say, no, never heard of it.
All right. So we're set up to use that. Let's go over to, we don't want to go there. Of course, we don't have our menus set up just right. So here's this. So this screen right here, this menu item, I want that to actually go to the leads. So what I'm going to do, lead list. I'll copy the name of this. We need to modify the menu a little bit just to help us navigate. Okay. And I believe that's near the bottom, and it is. New screen. Home screen. So I'll go in here for the screen here. I'll paste that. Or the label. And Howard said, sure do. LOL.
Okay. The good old days. Yeah.
Good my day. All right. So I think we're good there. I'm going to rerun that.
I was actually watching a Matthew Devaney video.
Really?
And he said that. He said he used the terms gutters.
Interesting.
Now, my first that wasn't the response that I thought Darren would give me. Inside, he's probably going, "What?" But because I expect him to say, "What do you mean watching his video? Why aren't you watching mine?" Well, you were in
That's
it.
right.
You were in it. It was you and him. So
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
I'm a little perplexed, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm thinking if I X out and come back in, I don't know, maybe there's a weird thing with the component not refreshing. So I think I might come back into sales and leads manager. I'm going to back out and come back in.
Yeah, sometimes PowerApps does PowerApps.
PowerApps is pulling a PowerApps. That's right.
doing the PowerApps.
My least favorite feature is where your screen just goes blank, and it doesn't matter what screen you click on, it's just blank, and you just got to exit out and come back.
And then PowerApps is like, calm down, everything is all right, guys. Calm down.
Yeah, look at that.
Calm
Yeah,
down.
fine.
No need to freak out. Your application was fine. I was just scaring you all.
and making you walk around in circles for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like this light theme. And I'll say cancel, just in case they just want to go back really quick.
That's not good.
Now, how do we go back to the previous screen? Anybody know what we do to go back to the previous screen? Anybody got a function for me?
It's a back function.
Back? Let's try that out.
Very nice.
How about that? Very cool. Now, most people think you don't have any parameters in here, but I actually have a video where I talk about navigate and back, and I believe you can provide, you can have a screen transition in the back. Now, the question is, can I also provide parameters going back? Doesn't look like it. All right, so we got the cancel, and I don't know what I'm going to put on the right side here, but what we could do is, well, let's just get all this functional, and then we'll think about what we might want to have all the any commissions, or we might have like a little thing where, let's say, salespeople or a manager could come in and like, hey, I talked to this guy today. He said he wanted this, so we can have a little bit of course, that's typically in a CRM, but it's not a bad idea to have something like this, especially if you don't already have a CRM. This could sort of be like a beginning of a CRM system, right? So we have a new record. So let's look at the save button here. What code do we have in here? Well, we are using lead. Okay, so we got title and email, so that's set up right. So let's go back over and look at this. We got the full name for the title. Phone. Well, what's the name of our text box for phone? We're going to reference it in code. We should probably have a good name here, txt phone. And I might want to say lead phone, because users might have a phone and other things might have a phone. So txt lead. Here's a question for you guys. Can you have a control on one screen that says txt full name, and on another screen you've got a control with the same name? Is that possible in PowerApps or not?
It's not possible in PowerApps.
Yeah.
If you try doing it, it will give you a notification that you already have used the name.
That's right. So the scope of the names of these controls, it's global. Right? It's like a global variable. And then I almost wish the control names were like local.
Yeah.
Or if you're an old VB.
They were modular level in VB, right?
Yeah, so there's different scopes. You have a friend scope, which means, hey, I can reference that variable, but I have to say screen dot, and prefix it with the screen. And then you have some that are private that would only be able to reference within that screen. So there's all kinds of different scopes and other platforms and stuff. So I thought I'd mention that just in case a few years from now you guys want to pick up C# or Python or something. Although I don't know anything about Python, so don't hold me to that. So we got lead location, okay, and txt lead CRM link, and it makes it much easier when you're working with code here. Instead of me going back and forth and trying to get a good name here, I can say txt lead phone. There we go. And what's the next thing we have?
Darren, sorry to interrupt you over here. The phone number is going to be a number, right? It will be values. And what did we define the phone column in our database as? Is it a text, or is it a value, or is it a number?
So
here's the question for you guys. Are you going to do any math with it? And I think maybe that's where Kurt was going to go with that.
exactly.
Go ahead.
Value function.
You just quoted exactly the question I was going to ask you.
Yeah. So we
Size
use
it up.
total single line of text. All right. Okay.
Sometimes people put parentheses and dashes and spaces. They might even say business phone, home phone, cell phone. And I I sort of allow that so I always want to get the most data as possible. Now if you only wanted to store it as a number, you could do that. But I think of situations like if you're dealing with a number, I don't think this is even possible. But if you can imagine an area code starting with a 0, then you wrap the value function on there and get the numeric value, it will completely lop off that 0. Or let's say we have international clients. You got a +1 for the United States. What's the country code for Canada?
+1, same.
Oh, it's +1 as well. Okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of other countries, they got other phone codes, and you can't have a value because you got the plus in there, So always use that.
Right. I would just go ahead and finish your thought there, Darren, because I was going to go down something there.
Yeah. So I always allow people to type in, because sometimes you might want to have an extension. So you have a phone number, space X, and then another number, So go ahead. What you got?
Yeah. Well, all the talk that we've talked about when it comes to data types and we said all that to say exactly what you were talking about right there, Amber. The question that you said, well, why don't we just store that into as a number in the database? That's exactly why. See, numbers are the biggest trick because numbers look like numbers, but sometimes numbers are letters.
Yeah.
Sometimes numbers are treated like letters, and you can't add letters. You can add numbers, but you can't add letters. And so if you have numbers like that are in an address or that are in a phone number or a social security number or some other ID, and most IDs should be letters, numbers that are letters, right? And I always talk about the buckets. You got your data types are like a bucket, and it depends on what kind of bucket you're putting stuff in. You can actually put a letters in a plastic bucket, but are they going to do what numbers do? No, not necessarily. So you might need another kind of bucket for that, So.
And we're having squiggly lines.
Yeah. No kidding.
All right. What'd you do?
Can you guys spot the problem? So if I hover over this, it's got a problem with the email.
Yeah.
Email does not match the expected type. Text. Well, what exactly is in this thing here? Let's put something in here. Darren at Neese.us. Okay, let's say Darren. Nice. My phone number is actually 555-367-5309. My location, Orlando. Florida. My CRM link is our platform links. Yeah. I don't want to type it. Of course, it's not really a link to a CRM, but I want a URL in there. Okay. I'm going to hit save. And I think we might have an error. Why?
We have an _1. Okay, that's fine.
Well, let's go over and rename this thing because this was a leftover from a duplication.
Oh, it's 2. See, it's text email 2.
Lead email. And let's make sure this looks good too. TXT lead full name. Okay, now the question is, do we have the same problem now? Now it should have. Wow, it didn't do this right. Okay.
It was the 1.
Lead email. I wonder what mistake, because when you duplicate a screen, it will usually add that 1 on there, and it still works, but lead full name. So we call it title, and now it's fine. See what happens, guys, when you have people, you have a different set of eyes, you guys come together, you can solve infinitely more problems, the more minds that you put in the think tank, right? Yeah. So that's one of the great things about the accelerator system. So here I am, like the leader of this army of PowerApps programmers or app creators, but just getting people together and help troubleshoot some things, I do have a question in the comments. Do you have any learning on using dynamics with PowerApps? I don't, but that could be something that we do in the future. After we have a video on everything, we'll probably move on, because I do plan on covering some Power Automate, some Power BI eventually. And I don't know why we couldn't add dynamics to that. That might be like a long road, because I mean that dynamics in itself is a big thing, and it is related. So maybe eventually, but probably not anytime soon. Like in the next few months, it might be maybe a year down the road. But I appreciate you asking. It means that you value the content, or you like the format that I have here. So I appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, I think this might work. Works on my machine. Programmer's famous last words, right? Look, my name's gone. I'll say test record in there. And appreciate it. Love the videos. Our team's currently in the middle of transforming itself. All your videos massively valuable. Okay, very cool. So, by the way, if you and your team need help, we do we don't accept everybody that wants into the program. There's a few criteria that we look for. One of the criteria we look for is, do you have like a passion? Do you enjoy doing this? If somebody came to me like, Darren, my boss is making me do PowerApps, but I think this might help me. And I'm like, well, I don't know if this is a good fit, because what I'm really sensitive about is how the culture is within this accelerator program. If you don't like PowerApps, then it just sort of like sours the culture a little bit, right? But yeah, we absolutely do allow multiple people from the same organization to come in. Typically, you guys are working on the same project, but please do book a call with us, and we can talk about how we can work together. So you might want to look at that. Yeah, so very cool. Let's see if this actually works now. Oh,
yeah, it's a whole different level in that accelerator. Yeah.
Let's bring this to the front, and then make sure we also have our spinner. Save, run, and now it's blank again. Okay, well, I do have a link here. Oh, there's our lead listing. Let's go there. Oh, there's Darren. Now, look at this. This is where the first and last can break down. You see that little card that says Dear. You know what, guys? I want you guys to call me from now on Dr. Darren, okay? Just because of that right there. Dr. Darren, I have a brother who's actually a medical doctor and has his MBA and runs. So somebody says Dr. Neese in our house, we know that it's him and not me. All right, so I don't want to go last. How about if we say something like index 2? Would that work? I'm going to split that. We got the index. No, we want the one there. For the index, we need to tell it the ordinal position we're looking for. Do you see that? Does that make sense what I just did there? So this is my full name, Darren Neese test record. So it was grabbing the R, and it goes off to the other screen. It's grabbing the R out of the word record. Okay. So if I want the first, 2 characters, so if somebody puts in their middle name, it's going to mess that up a little bit. How do you get around this? Well, you need to get more granular. So in a typical system, I actually like to capture the first name in a text box and the last name in a separate text box. So it's very easy to pull that out. So that's how we would change that. So an index function works with a collection, an array, a list of values, and then you give it an ordinal position. Okay, so hopefully there's at least 2 items when we do that split on a space. Hopefully there's a first last name there. We'll grab the second one. Hopefully that makes sense there. I might actually click format text and make it look pretty. Is that prettier? I don't know. The jury's still out. It seems like it took some simple code and spread it out over 20 lines there.
That's my definition of complicating a ham sandwich right there.
Kurt has all these little phrases. I call them Kurt-isms. Complicated ham sandwich. Also, I think this is one of the things he used to say to me. Darren, You couldn't even code yourself out of a wet paper bag. I remember that one. And sometimes I tell him some of his criticisms that I remember from years ago that he's forgotten about. But I love those. So what do you guys think of the application so far? Have we made good progress in, what, an hour or two here?
We definitely did an amazing progress using modern
Yeah.
controls. People haven't been using the batch function. They're like, oh, where did we get this fancy function from? Fancy out, fancy layout.
Yeah.
It's actually really catchy, to be honest, having that badge.
Yeah, I sort of like it. You'll see some of that in the like Azure DevOps. We looked at Azure DevOps boards to manage projects. We did that Thursday night. So that was actually our 5th group call this week. I had somebody I sort of look up to and respect, and I've worked with him in the past. I'm not going to mention his name, but he came on and helped us out and sort of showed us how to set up an Azure DevOps board using Scrum and Agile as a methodology behind managing projects. So I felt that was really valuable. Hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of that as well. And dealing with that, instead of people's photos, it would display something like this. I wonder if there's a property in here that would allow me to have like the font to be a little bigger. Let's look at this. We have a tent. We have a filled. Ooh. I sort of like that, but I sort of don't, because I want it to be along the lines of my theme. Okay. So I have the chance to change that base color. All right, so let's look at this badge. This is a really cool thing. This is the first I saw it and I knew about it, but I've never actually used it. I'm like, wow, I just display their image. But this is sort of cool. Okay, so the base palette color. Well, if you're using the Jumpstart kit, we've got var theme. Do we have a var theme? No, I think I actually changed it to global theme, which is good. Let's say primary dark. Okay, does that look good? At least it probably looks like it goes or belongs a little better. You guys think that looks good?
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah. What do we have? We have circular. We have square.
Hmm.
What do you guys think of that? What about rounded? Okay, it's a little rounded, not too rounded.
Okay.
I wonder if they're going to allow us to give it a number. See how many properties we have? Well, let me get us out of the way, right? Look at this. This is what I don't like so far, and I think they're going to add more as time goes on. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, okay?
There's a review option on top if there's the thumbs up, thumbs down. So you do the thumbs up and they ask you what new features do you want in that in our modern controls. So you type it in there, your comments, basically.
So let's take so because this is a suggestion, if it met all my needs, I'm like, oh, this is great. But sometimes good feedback isn't all that useful. I'm like, okay, well, it makes me feel good, but it gives me no room for improvement. So I'm gonna give it a thumbs down. I'm gonna say I want to change the border radius of the rounded corners. Okay, thanks for mentioning that, Amber. I'm going to hit send, and some poor soul over in Microsoft is going to see my comment maybe. And okay, so we have that. Oh, we have brand. We have danger. Oh, that's interesting. Important. Importante. It's about the only Spanish I know. That increíble. Okay, so you can actually change the color based on. Oh, so this is what is this called here, Kurt?
Priorities. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, I'm asking for you guys to see if you guys know this. A few weeks ago, maybe it was just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about enumerated values. I don't remember what video that was from, but Kurt gave us a whole dissertation of what an enumerated value is.
Dissertation.
What's that?
Dissertation. A very long soliloquy. He blathered on for hours.
I sort of miss having Jeff here because he would help me give you a hard time. Here's a severe, subtle. Yeah, that's subtle. I could have just set it to white, right? Success is probably going to be green. So you guys, we could actually use this for like little, oh, this is a, like, here's a message at the bottom of the screen. Nope, you got to do that and use this enumerated value here. That's really interesting.
Little things like that, they nurture the competitiveness in people. And so what you could even do is like, let's say you're dealing with sales, you could actually have a color scheme on there, a color board on this thing based on levels of leads that they're bringing in or whatever. And you could, and people could be trying to get their black belt or whatever it is that you're trying to get, whatever color scheme you're trying to develop,
You could have a leaderboard. Who are the top salespeople?
Yeah. And you can actually see that based on the color that you're carrying. So your color is going to be carried around everywhere, with that. Yeah. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. So as you can see, we're limited on the property. Now, if we go over to advanced, do we have any more? It looks like it, but do we really have content links? We do have a few more, but not a lot. I mean, these are things that you'd expect to have, like visible, X, Y, the width, and all that stuff. So, oh, we do have an on change. That's interesting. There's an event property called on change. I found that interesting. Typically, controls that allow a user to change something, like a text box, will have an on change. Where an image, I don't think would have an on. Now they have an on select.
Would that be a useful thing for like a Power Automate trigger in there? Like would you put that in that on change where you're trying to do? I've done almost nothing with flows, which is something I've got to do. But would that be like something that you would do? Like if the user came in and changed their deal, we would really be notified that something. Could there be something like that?
I can't think of because we have this content. Okay, so if the content changes, let's say their first and last name changed, okay, that would just automatically change it. And I don't know, it would just change. Like, why? What would you want to do based on that? I'm not sure. Maybe that's a suggestion somebody put in there and they had a cool use case, but I can't think of anything. I'm not sure how it ties into Power Automate flows. Maybe because if we have Power Automate flow off to the side changing the data, PowerApps won't know about it unless you do a refresh or go do a filter or a lookup to go look it up again.
Well, you've often talked about triggering flows from within PowerApps, and I thought, well, that maybe there would be like a flow to some kind of a notification that something changed. Maybe if somebody's wanting to check the content of pictures and whatever, or I don't know.
Yeah, I can't really think. But yeah, you could add a Power Automate flow, and you would have code in there, and if you knew it changed, you could handle it in there. So I'm trying to think of how that would be, and maybe they're trying to add in event properties for all the modern controls, maybe that are consistent, like they all have on change. I'm not sure. So these are new controls. They're not really meant for production at this point, because if you go into the settings right now, if you're watching this video a few months from now, it might be really different. I always like to change it to 2000. Where is it? Upcoming features, modern controls. This is a preview. So once it moves from preview to production, or that's called general use, sometimes you'll see GU. Oh, the modern controls are GU now, which is general release, so you can start using them in production apps or feel comfortable using them in production apps. So I have a question, Kurt. I showed you a video I had prepared that had like cubes on the side. Have I showed that video yet? And I think maybe I have. I'm not sure.
I know you showed some kind of a commercial. I don't know. You showed a commercial early, but I don't know if it. Yeah. Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that?
You showed us the song. You showed us a song.
I know I showed. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I want to show, but I really like that. But just in case I did show it, I don't want to show it again. But so I think we should
show it, because I think you didn't. I think you showed that before this. I don't think you did.
So just in case you guys are watching this after, it's only like a minute long. It might be a minute, 15 seconds. So why not show it, right?
And it's my fault if you've seen it already. So
We'll blame Kurt.
blame Kurt.
PowerApps has been the key ingredient for the hundreds of people that we've helped dominate in their organization. With this one skill, you're able to simplify processes for countless tasks, like tracking leads, doing inspections, logging attendance, booking desks in a shared office, generating reports, tracking employee performance, and the list goes on. If you have a project that you need to get done, or you're an IT professional or a developer, or if you plan to eventually do some freelancing work with Microsoft PowerApps, I am literally the only person you need to accomplish your goals. Spreadsheets and all the old ways of doing things are becoming redundant, and the people who are able to build PowerApps are going to accelerate their professional career so much faster than everyone else who's okay being average. I have over 20 years experience as a software developer and have been working in PowerApps for over 3 years. We have lots of course material for you, but if you're eager to accelerate your expertise with PowerApps at a much faster pace and want to work directly with me, this is what me and my team are going to do for you. Number one, we're going to figure out exactly what projects and skills you're working on and the overall end goal. Number two, we're going to get clear on exactly what data sources are needed for your projects. If it's a particular project with a deadline, we're going to work with you to make sure that you meet that deadline. And number four, we're going to work with you to make sure that you master the platform. So not only can you finish any projects that you're currently working on, but the projects that come up in the future. And you might want to take those skills and become a freelancer in the future. If that sounds like something that you're interested in and you want to expedite the process of being able to build apps that can literally be used for years, and you want to be an important asset to your organization and any future companies you work for, click the button below and we can have a 15-minute chat about what you're needing and how we can help.
All right. You guys remember seeing that before, Amber or Elvis? Okay. Maybe that's a good sign that we didn't play it before. So the burning question in everyone's mind that's watching this is, what video do I watch next?
For some reason, YouTube thinks you're going to like this video next. Let's see if they're right. Or you can select this playlist, which I've selected for you based on the content you're currently watching. Guys, gotta hurry, click one of them. Otherwise, YouTube's gonna autoplay some other video.